For years, the federal government has denied any link between autism and vaccines. But a short time ago, we saw the release of a bombshell report. The feds have been quietly compensating children injured by vaccines. These are children who have autism. All of this despite the public denials.
Hey special family, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, I'm Autism Mom, and on this channel we talk about autism and everything in between. Today we're doing another fair use reaction video. Vaccine injury has been all over my newsfeed and timeline. If you haven't seen it, baby, I think you need to go look into it. But here are some things that went down last week in regards to vaccine injuries. And I don't think I have ever seen so much information come across my For You page regarding vaccine injury. And I thought it's only fair to share it with you. Here we go.
For years, the federal government has denied any link between autism and vaccines. But a short time ago, we saw the release of a bombshell report. The feds have been quietly compensating children injured by vaccines. These are children who have autism. All of this despite the public denials. Joining us now is one of the authors of the new report, Mary Holland. She's a research scholar and director of the Graduate Legal Skills Program at New York University's School of Law. Hello to you, Mary.
Hi, Allison.
All right, tell us in a nutshell what makes this announcement today so significant.
What's significant, Allison, is, as you said, it's the link between vaccines and autism. The government's denied it. We found 83 cases that make that association in cases that the government compensated. We want to get to the bottom of this. We want Congress to hold hearings. Every one of the 83 cases we found is based on government data. These are cases that DOJ and Health and Human Services, Department of Justice can verify. They can check that these are accurate cases. This is not a case about our children. It's not a case about our opinions. It's about compensated cases of vaccine injury.
And when you talk about these 83 families, how much in compensation are we talking about?
It ranges vastly, Allison. It goes from a couple tens of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars and their annuities. So we're talking really large sums of money with these families who have children who are severely injured by vaccines, and they also have autism. I think we can all agree that children should get the safest vaccines humanly possible, and that those children who have the grave misfortune to be injured by their childhood vaccines should be compensated. That's what this is about. It's about creating a fair and just and equitable compensation system and telling the truth about what vaccines can do.
Researchers found was that vaccinated children had 4.29 times the rate of asthma, 3.03 times the rate of atopic disease, 5.96 times the rate of autoimmune disease, and 5.53 times the rate of neurodevelopmental disorders, which included 3.28 times the rate of developmental delay and 4.47 times the rate of speech disorder. All of these findings were statistically significant. There was also other conditions for which there were numerous cases in the vaccinated group, but zero in the unvaccinated group. Hence, a rate cannot be calculated, including brain dysfunction, ADHD, learning disabilities, intellectual disabilities, and tics. For example, there were 262 cases of ADHD in the vaccinated group, and there were none in the unvaccinated group. In this study, there were around 16,000 kids in the vaccinated group, by the way, and around 2,000 in the unvaccinated group. So the rate, of course, between those is important, and that's what the study compared. These findings were troubling, including because these chronic health issues can be caused by immune system dysregulation, and vaccines can cause immune system dysregulation. Citations for this are in my written submission. Overall, the study found that after 10 years, 17% of the unvaccinated children had a chronic health issue, while 57% of the vaccinated children had at least one chronic health issue, often multiple. That's 17 versus 57%.
The VAERS system, what was it? It was a Harvard study conducted, correct? That showed, yes, what, 1%? I guess they estimated about 1% of all vaccine injuries are actually reported to VAERS?
That is correct, about 1%. This was you're referring to a study by Ross Lazarus et al. From the Harvard Pilgrim Medical Group. It was a study actually sponsored by the CDC themselves, and they estimated that about 1% or less of all vaccine adverse events were being captured by VAERS.
So what do you estimate the rate of vaccine injury? You've done a lot of studying on this.
Absolutely. And I think going back to that same publication, again, it's CDC dollars. And they found that in their study group, they looked at the Harvard Pilgrim HMO over 3 years. And they looked at every individual needle stick, and they found that there were, for every 39 needle sticks, there was one serious adverse event. So that's 1 in 39. It's not 1 in a million. It's not 1 in 2 million. It's 1 in 39 needle sticks. Now, when you factor in the fact that over that 3-year period, many people got more than one vaccine, then the serious adverse event rate per person was 1 in 10.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you heard earlier that there's no real concern about aluminum because it's such a small amount, and so it really shouldn't matter. But the kind of aluminum that we put into vaccines is a different kind of aluminum that we see environmentally. This is called a nanoparticle, and nanoparticles bind really tightly to the bacteria antigens, the virus antigens, the food protein antigens, and any other contaminants that are in the vaccines that we may not know about. And we know that the biochemical properties of nanoparticles is that they are capable of entering the brain. And so we have not evaluated the safety of the aluminum nanoparticle and its injection and where it goes when it gets into the body and whether it gets into the brain. Do vaccine ingredients belong in the brain? No. Do they get into the brain? No one has ever studied it. But animal studies using the same chemicals that are in vaccines that we give to children directly demonstrate that the vaccine ingredients do enter the brain. We are ignoring this information. There are scientists in Europe who've actually done studies on the aluminum nanoparticle and have shown that it can persist in the brain for years and decades. And so what we're seeing is a large outbreak of neurodevelopmental disabilities in adults, including Alzheimer's. And one of the main factors that they're finding in the brains of people with Alzheimer's is the aluminum nanoparticle that's directly related to the vaccines that we're giving. So we have never studied whether the aluminum that we're giving in vaccines gets into the brain, and we've never measured whether it stays in the brain and what it does if it does stay in the brain. But we do know that vaccines are supposed to cause inflammation in the body. But we have more than half of our children with chronic inflamed conditions, and we've never allowed ourselves to ask the question, if the vaccines cause inflammation acutely, do they continue to create inflammation chronically? We have 1 in 5 with neurodevelopmental disabilities, 1 in 10 with ADD and ADHD, 1 in 35 with autism, 1 in 11 with asthma, and 1 in 20 under the age of 5 with seizures. And the autoimmune diseases are exponentially rising, and we are finding that the viruses and the bacteria that we're injecting into the body, along with the adjuvants, create something called molecular mimicry, which means the body sees those viruses thinking that it's foreign, but actually finds pieces of those viruses that match pieces of the self. And the immune system doesn't differentiate between what it's been told to reject and itself. So it will turn the immune system on itself, leading to an autoimmune condition.
This child was given a toxic slew of the most dangerous vaccinations at age 1 when she already had a cold and she had constipation. Did at any point the medical professionals in that clinic that gave those vaccinations to your beautiful daughter, did they ever tell you that about any of these side effects, or there could be anything that could happen from taking these shots?
No, all she said was that my baby might get a little fever. And we went to go leave, and not even 3 minutes after we driving, someone was like, turn around and look at Sanaya. And I turned around and looked at my baby, and her eyes was rolling in the back of her head, and she was just like going like this and foaming out the mouth. We got to the hospital. This was St. Vincent. What is it? St. Vincent's Hospital in Pennsylvania. When we got there, they rushed her to trauma. In the time and the frame of me bringing her in there, my baby ended up having about 4 more seizures after that. So they ended up putting her to sleep, and the nurse came running to me and was like, I'm sorry, but your daughter, she's very sick. She was like, right now she's in cardiac arrest. Like they trying to resuscitate, like they bring her back. And we went down there, and my baby was like, she wasn't like her heart wasn't responding.
They was giving her CPR for like 40 minutes. They was trying to bring her back alive for 40 minutes. Then next time they said, they was like,
we're gonna check her pulse, check for a pulse one more time. And if we don't have a pulse anywhere, she's gone. And they checked and she didn't have that pulse. And they said my baby was gone.
You don't expect to go to a hospital, to a doctor, and for them to not tell you everything. Like, you're expecting for them to let you know, like, if something could possibly, even if it's a possibility that something could happen, and inform the parents to give them that choice, that to make that decision on whether they still want to try to go forward with whatever it is, or if they don't.
Don't let your kids take the vaccination shots.
Ask questions.
Ask questions before anything they give you, anything, ask questions, because promise you they're not going to tell you everything. And even if they do, still do your research on your own, because they can tell you one thing and it won't be true. Do your research on your own before y'all say y'all want to let y'all kids get vaccinated.
And these are the things that I'd like to highlight. Number one, there is no education in medical schools that I am aware of. And being an educator at the Cleveland Clinic Lerner College of Medicine and Case Western Reserve University, I am not aware of education around vaccines, their contents, safety records, informed consent, or the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. We do not discuss that in 1986, Congress enacted legislation removing all liability from pharma related to vaccine adverse events. What are we taught about vaccines? We are taught to memorize the vaccine schedule. And actually, I'm going to be sitting for my family medicine boards this year, and I am sure that I will have to memorize that schedule again in order to pass that exam. We don't discuss that almost $4 billion with a B has been paid to vaccine-injured patients since 1992. For medical professionals, we expect fair balance, but vaccines seem to be absolved from that consideration. Number two, there appears to be a conflict of interest regarding payments to providers for completing vaccine schedules. And a corollary to that, which would be number three, patients are being dismissed from practices because of, quote unquote, vaccine safety concerns. If you bring up a question about a vaccine and you decide not to vaccinate your child, you may be at risk of being terminated from that practice. Absolutely deplorable and disgusting. Number four, and again to the Bailey family, I'm really sorry, but employers are forcing employees to receive the flu vaccine or face corrective action or job loss. And the fact that your dad was 6 months from retiring is, number five, there's a lack of informed consent, and I was one of those providers who didn't provide safety sheets before vaccinating. I would tell the parents, these are the vaccines today. We're going to give you 3 vaccines in one leg and 2 in the other. And then after vaccinating either the child or the adult patient, here's your information sheet. And again, to be completely transparent with you, I had no idea that there was even a mention of the compensation program or a telephone number to call. Absolutely deplorable on my part, and I apologize to my patients. Number 6, there's a lack of transparency regarding vaccine complications. And worse, you're being shamed as patients for suggesting that you were harmed by a vaccine. If I see a patient in the office and diagnose strep throat and give them penicillin, and either the mom or the patient themselves calls and tells me that they developed a rash, there is zero question. The chart now states they have an allergy to penicillin and will never be given it again. Why don't we believe parents and patients when they tell us they have had an adverse event regarding a vaccine? It doesn't make sense to me as a medical professional. I apologize for being emotional.
I don't think I can keep doing testing on these vaccine-injured kids. Man, these parents bring these kids in that are rough and wanting blood work. You know, and you gotta pin these kids down, and like I just can't do it. We've started doing the illegal scan, right? So they can do a tissue scan. It's non-invasive. That's nice. You still get all your metals and minerals and stuff, but like aluminum every time, heavy metals every time. My heart broke today. I love my kids very much, and I'm very grateful for that. And I'm grateful to be able to help some people that are just in a spot, but it was a tough day. Hug your kids.
We made the movie Vaxxed to try and understand and warn the world about the real dangers of the MMR vaccine. I even vaccinated my child after I had Billy because I was so pro-vaccine and so into the system. Just the MMR was the problem. But then we got out on the bus. We took a bus and we traveled around America, listening to parents around America, what had happened to them when they vaccinated their children. And what we saw was utterly horrific. We saw so much death following baby vaccines. These parents would vaccinate their perfectly healthy child, and then their child would die. We saw a video at the beginning of this about the whooping cough. I've interviewed so many parents, and one comes to mind, Carrie Bundy's baby. At 4 months old, she pleaded with the doctor, "Should I vaccinate my child? He's premature." "Oh yes," said the pediatrician. "If you don't vaccinate your baby, he could die of whooping cough." She vaccinated that baby, and he was dead in his crib following that. That is the same story we hear over and over again. These childhood vaccinations, the people of America are telling us they are not safe and effective. We are seriously concerned at Children's Health Defense about the disinformation and misinformation out there, being told these vaccines are safety trials, the safety studies are so good. Yet all we see is death and destruction over and over again. Babies, teenagers, HPV Gardasil, their ovaries are shutting down. They cannot have children anymore. The parents are reporting paralysis. Children paralyzed from the waist down. You shout out about polio to us. I have never seen so many crippled children around America. So many children in wheelchairs, unable to walk, talk, speak, on ventilation. Parents are trying to tell their story while putting a feeding tube down their child's to bleed out the lungs, bring out the lungs, while they're trying to tell us what has happened. 2 little 2-year-olds who can't hold their heads up because they had one Hep B vaccine. And then you shout out about measles to us. Those 2 girls in Gaines County, they did not die of measles. Children's Health Defense have seen the medical records. We have had experts break down. Yet still, I sit here and I hear over and over again that those 2 girls died of measles. They did not die of measles. And yet, the press and others consistently shout out that vaccines are safe and effective. They are, vaccinate your family. We all vaccinated our families. Everybody sitting here, bar 2, vaccinated their families with catastrophic results. Over 12,000 signatures on those 2 buses of death, death, death.
When you have no capacity to be able to sue when a product is faulty, then it's just a blank check to be careless. And so, Secretary Kennedy, what are you doing to fix this? Because I know a ton of families that have submitted reports to VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, and for years and years they can't get any progress at all with the VICP, the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. How are you fixing this? Because this is a broken system that overwhelmingly benefits AstraZeneca, Moderna, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson. Secretary Kennedy.
I mean, those companies, we have a free market system in this country, and part of that is that there's consequences if you make a bad product. And, vaccines are particularly exempt from that because there's no free market economy. Normally, if you get poisoned by Coca-Cola, you can stop drinking Coca-Cola. But if you get poisoned by a vaccine, your kids still have to take that vaccine to get into the school. If your doctor tells you your child will die because, he can look and see what happened to elder siblings, there's some kind of genetic vulnerability that's affected the older siblings, and the doctor wants to tell you your 3rd child should not take this vaccine, he's going to be punished for that. And also the schools won't let you go to school no matter what. So in New York and California, there's not only no religious exemptions, there's no philosophical exemptions, but there also effectively is no medical exemption. So these kids, it's mandated, and because it's mandated, there's no market forces that tell you, that allow you, if you don't like the product, if you have reservations about it, you can't stop using it. You got to take it anyway. So the things that and then, you have, of course, the mainstream media is bought and brain dead when it comes to these issues. They will not criticize, they will not report vaccine injury. The Congress is very with the So you have none of the market forces that apply that make other products safe. There is zero incentive for these companies.
Hi, my name is Dr. Rubin, and the reason why I keep talking about these issues is because I'm an expert on the subject matter, and he keeps misrepresenting and lying about the truth. I'm double board certified in general pediatrics and allergy immunology. I'm a fellow of the American Academy of Pediatrics, American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology, and the American Academy of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology. So this is something that I deal with on a regular basis, which is adverse reactions to vaccines, and he keeps lying about what's actually going on. As an example, there are medical exemptions for childhood vaccines. If someone has a severe allergic reaction to a vaccine, which I have seen actually happen, there's a medical exemption for that, and you can still go to school. In New York and California, they do not allow non-medical exemptions, like a religious exemption, because they have very stringent public health laws to protect their communities. He also talks about this idea that the mainstream media doesn't talk about adverse reactions to vaccines, which is far from the truth. When the COVID-19 vaccine was first rolled out and there were issues related to severe allergic reactions or rare cases of myocarditis associated with mRNA vaccines, which is still a lot fewer cases compared to actual infections, that was covered on the media for people to learn about. RFK Jr. has made a recent announcement that he's going to try to change the vaccine injury compensation program, and it's unclear what he's actually going to do. But he spent 12 minutes on the Charlie Kirk show saying a bunch of lies and misrepresenting the truth to try to do whatever he can to change that program, which may not necessarily be good. So if you want to learn more about this, I'm going to write a Substack soon that you can subscribe to for free to get a full debunk of what he has said in that full interview.
You cannot sue the pharmaceutical companies for injuries caused by a vaccine, even if the injury is as severe as death. Instead, you must present a claim to the U.S. Court of Claims. This is a federal claim, and the government is on the other side, not the pharmaceutical companies. And the government pays your damages if you prove your case.
I just want to start by asking the CDC one question. How stupid do you think we are? I made a movie about two dumb guys, but nobody's this stupid.
Turn around and face the media, please, and I'll join you and show them and show the world the reason we're here today. These children are trying so hard to show us how to live in a cleaner world. These kids are here for a reason, to teach us to eat better, clean up the air, get rid of toxins, because they can't survive. I know, I really do know that this is their main purpose, and I pray that we all start to wake up and collectively change this world into the new world our kids are working so hard to create.
We can't always rely on government agencies to do the right thing. Oftentimes, they will avoid the obvious cause of a problem if the solution is inconvenient.
The Florida Department of Health, in partnership with the governor, is going to be working to end all vaccine mandates in Florida law. All of them. All of them. Every last one of them is wrong and drips with disdain and slavery. Who am I as a government, or anyone else, or who am I as a man standing here now to tell you what you should put in your body? Who am I to tell you what your child should put in your body? I don't have that right. Your body is a gift from God. What you put into your body, is because of your relationship with your body and your God. I don't have that right. Government does not have that right. They want you to believe they have that right.
Before you made this decision to try to lift vaccine mandates for Florida, which include obviously public schools, did your department do any data analysis? Did you do any data projection of how many new cases of these diseases there will be in Florida once you remove vaccine mandates?
Absolutely. So absolutely not, because it's not a, you mentioned whooping cough there. So there's this conflation of the science and sort of what is the right and wrong thing to do. So scientifically, you mentioned whooping cough. So that's an example. This is part of the issue with informed consent. That's an example of a vaccine that is ineffective. The data show that it's ineffective at preventing transmission. So sort of mandates with that really don't have anything to do with the notion of transmission. And then in terms of, like analysis, well, ultimately, this is an issue very clearly of parents' rights. So do I need to analyze whether it's appropriate for parents to be able to decide what goes into their children's bodies? I don't need to do an analysis on that.
So you're trying to lift the vaccine mandate in Florida, and your department and you did not even do a projection as to how this could impact public health. So you have not prepared hospitals in the Florida counties most at risk with the best treatments for any outbreaks of measles, mumps, rubella, whooping cough, polio, and you have not looked into how many kids might now get these preventable diseases? That's what you're saying?
No, that's what you said. What I'm saying is that it's an issue of right and wrong in terms of whether parents should be able to have ultimate authority over what happens to their kids' bodies. And in terms of outbreaks, we do have outbreaks in Florida, just like every state, and we manage those. So there are no new special procedures that need to be made.
Right, but you're talking about doing something that no other state has done.
We manage them just as always.
But you're talking about doing something that no other state in the United States has done and removing the vaccine mandate for public schools. You're making a decision that no other Surgeon General in the United States has done. It goes against what's recommended by every top medical organization.
Yeah. So you've seen it. So as it goes on, I will bring you the videos on what they decide. But as you have seen, Florida is becoming the first state to stop the mandate of vaccines for school and in kids. So let's see where this goes. There's still a push and shove as, oh, that's not true. Oh, it's true. Oh, you're putting the public at risk. Oh, you're putting children at risk because they need these vaccinations, because they're diseases that are going out there, and without the vaccines, the diseases could spread. And there are other people saying like, these vaccines been causing autism. Y'all been hiding it. There have been studies done. Studies have been magically disappearing. The results have not been going out there. The stuff that's in the vaccine is poison, and so on and so forth. I just want to see what the conclusion is going to be, because they're still busy. There's no definite ruling yet. But Florida did stop vaccine mandates in kids for school and stuff. So let's see where this go. And as the information comes in, I'll bring it to you. And I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.